Today, hope all is well. We are live on the Facebook group. If you guys are watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast of this, and you want to join in and watch these episodes each week live every Thursday at 4 o'clock Central, you can join the Facebook group, Zero to Diamond Real Estate Agents. Today, I actually have a very special guest. This guy is actually a superstar in many different arenas. Mark Martin is here with us. He is a real estate / entrepreneur from like all kinds of angles. It's incredible. We were just talking before the show about some of the things he has going on that he's going to share with us today. But this guy has been he has a real estate team. He's been doing over $1 million a year for the last 3 years running. This guy's the president of Real Estate Champions Coaching Program. And he's coming to us live from the Zillow Forum in Vegas. Took time out of his day over there from speaking at the event to hang out with us for a little bit and see if we had any questions or what we could learn from him or how everybody can help each other. That's what this thing's all about. So without further ado, the first question I have for you, Mark, is kind of take us through maybe like how you got into real estate in the first place. Maybe what you did before that got you kind of going. And then I know that you fell on your face like I did in the real estate crash, and then woke up from the smoke and ashes of that, and then have really built an incredible empire from a bunch of different angles. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just go right from there.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Hey, everybody. Hey, coming to you live from Vegas. We're having an amazing event out here. Tom Ferry's on stage right now, and you got me and Ricky. So, glad your priorities are straight. For me, what launched my real estate career, I was a series of unfortunate events with companies that I was with, big national companies that their space changed, and I moved all over the country and lived all over the country. But through a series of events, the company that I worked for went bankrupt, and we were a big competitor of Home Depot and Lowe's. And so when that happened, we went down, and Home Depot and Lowe's did a great job of taking us out. So it launched my real estate career, because basically I was in 1999, 2000, when the tech crunch happened. I didn't have much choice, and so I joined Caldwell. I got my license in Florida. I joined Caldwell Banker. I was blessed to be able to be taken under a 30-year veterans wing, and her son had just gotten licensed as well. But she was a big Mike Ferry agent, and so she was personally coached by Mike, and so she taught her son Zach and myself the scripts, the dialogues, all of that. And we basically in 2000, before ISAs were even a popular term, we were her prospectors, and we were setting appointments and going on listing appointments, and then just trained, and then learned how to do it. So I have made all those calls, a ton of them. Zach and I would stand to each other and stand up desks, and we high five each other when we set an appointment. We fuck you, somebody hang up on us, whatever. So it's we had a good time, but we got across. And then
Mark, give it a second and let the internet catch up. Sorry, guys. He is in Vegas in a hotel room doing this for us. So give it just a second and let the internet catch up. Hope everybody's doing well today. I see your question there, Vic, about who Mark was calling in the beginning of his career, and we will get to that. There we go. Got you back.
Yeah. All right, cool. So to answer your question, Vic, we were calling expireds for sale by owners in Fort Myers and Naples. And so that's how I got started. And then I accepted a position in Austin I had been recruited for over a year. I accepted the position, moved to Austin, got back in the corporate world, was, doing great. But then the lumber market took a dive, and the company I was with was a big lumber company, and they were family owned, and my last name was not the same name as the family. And so I was one of the highest paid, newest hired, and I was one of the first ones out. And so I looked at, all right, where have I had the most fun, had the most freedom, made the most money? It was in real estate. And so I hopped back in with Coldwell Banker in Austin, started doing exactly the same thing, prospecting expireds, calling FSBOs, holding open houses. But it was funny, when I would go to the sales meetings every week, they'd go around the room to 30, 50 agents, and who's got a new listing, and a few agents would have one listing or whatever, and I would always have 5, 6, 7 listings a week. And it was all from prospecting. And I had an agent come up to me and say, whatever you're doing, it's illegal, because there's no way you can be listing properties. And I said, well, I appreciate that. I said, what kind of volume do you do? And she said, well, I do $7 million a year, and I do it all by referral, and I don't have to make any phone calls. And I said, well, that's awesome. I appreciate you telling me that, and I'll wave when I pass you by, because I'll do that in a month. And it was just, it's a mindset of, Mike does a great job with putting in your head that the fear of failure cannot be there. You have to make the calls, practice your scripts and dialogues, all the things that Ricky talks about on a daily basis and does and models for you guys, absolutely have to be done. And so I've rebuilt my business, and I was on the stage last night here at the Zillow Forum in front of 2,000 of my peers, and they asked me to tell my story, and I had to do it in 3 minutes. And clearly I can't do that very well because we're already 8 minutes in, but I built an amazing business in Austin in 2004, 2005. Then I opened my own brokerage. I hired a recruiting coach. I recruited 160 agents in 18 months into our brokerage, and it was a no-name brokerage in Texas. And I was in Keller Williams' backyard. And so same thing. We picked up the phone. We called agents. Hey, it's Mark with SellState. Just wanted to give you a quick call. Been tracking your business. Congratulations on how everything's going. Wanted to sit down with you and see if I could learn more about you and your business, and then show you a couple of things we're doing here to help our agents. And we were teaching them how to prospect. And so we built a great business, and we were rolling. I was telling them last night, I had a huge house. I had a big body black Benz with the license plate that said Homeboy, HOMBOY. Crazy. And I look back on
it.
So Denny Grimes in Fort Myers, Florida. Denny Grimes used to have a Lexus 430 back in the day, and his license plate was Homeboy. And I was just like, that. I like that. So when I got to Texas, I copied him. And I'm kind of that, aggressive type thing. And Vic, no, not $7 million in my first month. I did my first year in Austin. I did, I believe, $12 million by myself. My second year, we did $19 million because I brought on a buyer's agent, and that was 2004, 2005. Then I opened the brokerage, and I stopped selling because I didn't want to compete against my agents, and that was a crucial mistake, huge mistake. And so recruited all these agents. We were transaction fee based. There's a lot of brokerage models out there that are transaction fee based, and we were doing great because there was lots of transactions. And then 2007 came, and there was this little kind of blip in the market called the crash, and we crashed with it. We spiraled so freaking fast. Within the next 18 months, during, when the crash happened, and our fixed expenses were so high to, take care of these agents. And, we had multiple locations across Texas, and copiers and leases, and I was spending $150,000 a month on all this stuff. And, we couldn't shed cost fast enough. And so my business partner and I and our investors, I lost close to $1 million in cash that I had put in. My investors lost money. We all lost. And I ended up divorced, lost my car, lost my house, wife and my son. I basically lost everything. And so I ended up back in Naples, Florida, helping a friend of mine with short sales in 2010. And is that Chris Smith from Curator? Is that the same Chris Smith?
Not sure.
All right. So if it is, hey, Chris. If not, hey, Chris. But the crash killed us, and I spiraled big time. I was suicidal. I thought about driving off a bridge several times when I was going from Texas to Florida, but I couldn't quit on my son. And he kept me going. And so I went over, helped my buddy in Naples, and did all that. And we weren't making any money because it was taking 2 to 3 years to close short sales. It wasn't a quick thing. We couldn't turn money, and I had nothing. I lived in a shitty little condo, which there are some in Naples, believe it or not, and I was on food stamps for the state of Florida, and my child support from my son was $1,000 a month, and I was starting to get behind on that. And in Texas, or if you're paying child support in Texas, if you don't pay your child support, you go to jail. And so I got a phone call from one of my mentors. Most everybody in the industry knows him. His name is John Cheplak. John is a recruiting coach, madly successful, has had a lot of bumps in his road. But I caught a call from John, and he said, Mark, have you hit rock bottom yet? And I'm like, my pride and my ego said, no, I can keep going. I'll figure it out. Appreciate it, John, but I'll figure this out. 30 days later, he called me again. It was 7 years ago yesterday. He called me again, October 24th, or I don't even know what date today is, but basically it was October 24th, 2010. And he said, I'm going to ask you again, have you hit rock bottom yet? And so I said, yeah, I can't. I have nothing. I can't go any further. I don't see any way out of this. And he said, okay, I'm going to send you a one-way ticket to Las Vegas. You're going to come work for me. I'm going to pay $1,000 a month for your child support, and I'm going to feed you, and you'll have an air mattress to sleep on in the condo, and you're going to work with 3 other broken people, and we're going to build a product. And so I got on a plane and took a leap of faith, and it was horrible. I hate Vegas. This town is, for me, a really bad memory of the worst time of my life, but it gave me the opportunity to pay my child support, be around John, be around a couple of other guys who had even, couple of them had even bigger issues than I did, but we were working 20-hour days, and we ate whatever we could fit into a juicer, with celery and fruits and whatever, but it was not high times by any means. And the highlight of our week is John would take us to In-N-Out Burger, and we got to get a double and some fries. So that's where I've come from. That was rock bottom. I actually have it written on my shirt, or on my arms. I'll show you guys, for those of you that are not my Facebook friends. I actually have it written on my arms. If you can see this, it says, have you hit rock bottom yet? And, we did a a deal last night with a company called Dear World, and they take your portrait based on your message and your life story. And, this is tattooed on my brain that rock bottom is somewhere I never want to go back to. And so I called my mom from Vegas, and I said, Mom, I want to get my real estate license back in Texas. I need to borrow about $2,000 to get my license, to join the board. I need top producer, I need Red X, and I need a cell phone. And can I borrow your 2006 puke green Mercury Montego to go on listing appointments? Because I don't have a car. And she's like, yes, but you have to pay me back. And because my mom's, she was on fixed income, Social Security. And so I flew back to Austin and stayed at my mom's house at 46 years old, and I drove her shitty car to appointments. And it made no difference what kind of car I drove. It made no difference what kind of clothes I had, because I knew my scripts, I knew my dialogues. I was able to close the listing appointments, and I had conviction, and I had belief in myself, and I had belief in the process. And started listing properties. This was 2011. Listed properties, held open houses, listed FSBOs. My first closing was a FSBO. I'll never forget it. Listed a FSBO in November of 2011 and sold it. I held an open house, sold it from the open house, and the buyer didn't have an agent either, so I was able to get both sides of it. But within 6 months, I was able to pay my mom back and moved up to Austin, got an apartment, bought a used car, and just started building. And I've always built based on prospecting because it's free, or it's damn cheap. So, I've been a Red X client on and off since 2001. I was one of their first clients when that came out. But I think not that any system's better than any other one. It's just the one that I knew. And so I worked my way up to be able to get the dialer, to get Mojo. And then we started, my business partner, we came back together in 2012. We did 18 million in 2012. I hired Dirk Zeller as my coach, and he taught us how to run a business. Because we can do a lot of transactions and we can spend a lot of money, but until we really run it like a business and focus on net profit and focus on what percentage are we going to reinvest back into the business, what are we going to keep for ourselves, what do we need, those types of things. And we went from 18 million to 32 million in 1 year, hired 2 more buyer's agents. Then we went from 32 million to 41. And we've been at that kind of 40 level for the last 3 years running. 2 years into coaching, Dirk asked me if I would consider coaching for him because I knew my scripts and dialogue so well, and I knew technology, and we were being innovative. We had been doing a lot of stuff with Google pay-per-click, and then we switched over to Zillow when I discovered how much better the opportunities were in our market with Zillow. So we've been huge Zillow proponents ever since. It's been a great partnership. Right now, 65% of our business is from Zillow. We're doing, we've closed 99 transactions so far this year, 940,000 in GCI so far. We've got about another 120,000 pending. So we'll do between 1.1 and 1.2 in GCI this year. I stopped producing in April of this year, so I'm no longer in production, which has been amazing. And in April, Dirk asked me to become the president of Real Estate Champions, which has been a huge honor. I have a great group of coaching clients. And, coaching, as you know, Ricky, it's so rewarding because many times the teacher becomes the student. There's things that work in other markets that we're not doing in Austin. There's things that work in our market that may or may not work in other markets. But at the end of the day, as an agent or team leader or broker, you have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to, buy the latest and greatest bright, shiny object to try to, change or add or whatever. Smart zip. So my nickname for Smart Zip is Dumb Zip. I wasted $17,000 on that. Yeah, it's an algorithm, right? But it sounds sexy, all that, but it was a huge waste of money for us. Picking up the phone, prospecting, circle dialing, calling expires. We found our golden nugget for us was going back 5 to 7 years with the expired.
Mm-hmm.
So we went backwards because nobody else was working them. And during the crash and shortly after the crash, they may have tried to sell and they failed, so they rented it out. They rented it out, or they kept it in the family or whatever, but they don't necessarily understand how much that house is worth now. And so it's a great target for us because, and it still is, old expireds. I have a list of over 12,000 expireds for Austin, and we hit those regularly. So now I have people make the calls for me, but it's been a fun run, and now I just started a national referral network. So very selective on what agents we bring into the referral network, but basically I can come into your market and create opportunities for you. I don't call them leads, I call them experiences, because these are humans on the other end. And yeah, you've got a phone and an email address and a property that they inquired in, and that's a lead, but that's a human. And if we can create relationships with those humans and create connections and create community, then we're able to build a really good pipeline for the agent that's in that market. So I thought about this back in May. Went to Zillow with a proposal, and they've helped me kind of formulate what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we're coming into the market, helping convert the leads, using systems and processes to convert them, and then handing them off to the agent. And then the agent pays us a referral fee on the first closing, and then that client becomes their client for life, for all the repeat referral business. The lifetime value of a client should be 3 to 5 transactions. So just because you sell somebody a house today, that's awesome. But if you take really, really good care of them, and Ricky models this very well, of his repeat and his referral business is a huge part of his business, because he's taking care of his clients. He's investing in his clients' time, energy, emotion, and that's so critical, because they're going to send their friends, their family, their coworkers. They're going to sell what Ricky sold them 2 years ago or 4 years ago and move up or move down or move sideways. But if we stay in touch with them and we create those relationships, I call it, one of my favorite books is The Nordstrom Way. I'm a big Nordstrom fan because of the customer service and the experience when you shop at Nordstrom. And so that's what we try to provide for our clients, is just a great experience during the process so that they'll come back to us. So 30% of our business is repeat and referral. 60+% is Zillow, and the other 10 or so percent is expireds. So hope that helps. That's the story.
Wow. It's a nice 3 minutes.
Yeah, 20 plus 20.
So guys, let me just say a couple of things real quick. For one, if you have a question for us, please feel free to let us know. I see a couple of questions we're going to get to. I have a question for you, Mark, but before I ask it, I want to clarify what your referral company is doing. And what Mark is doing is he's created a new company, and he's going into different markets around the country. He's taking agents that he already knows or has a relationship with or interviews and feels really good about being his agent in that area. And then he is paying for the Zillow leads of that area, giving them to that agent, and then he works a deal out on a referral basis, whereas he gets paid on the first deal, but then you get all the repeat business from there on out. So it's very interesting because Mark has his own team and his own local team that's doing, over 40 million a year for the last 3 years. So he has that going on, which he's out of production of. Then on the side, he opened up a referral company that's going nationwide with the help of Zillow and agents that he's made connections with over the years. Okay. And this guy is the president of one of the biggest coaching companies in the industry, Real Estate Champions. So the guy has a lot going on. And really, if you really listen to his story, he fell right on his face, contemplated suicide. His son actually was the reason for him to keep going. And now look at him. It just goes to show you what, never giving up and just continuing to push and push and push, and finding your why. I'm sure at some point Mark looked up and said, I can't do this because my why is my son, and
Right.
everybody needs their why, to keep pushing. Mine, guys, if anybody wants to know, is just legacy, because I don't have a child yet. But I just feel so strong that I want to help so many people. I feel like I'm not doing the world justice if I don't do everything I can do to play my part, to leave my mark on the world, for trying to help as much as I can help in whatever I'm good at. And I'm just good at real estate. So my question to you is, I heard through your story that that you quit production because you didn't want to compete with your agents, and then you made the remark that that was a huge mistake. I was wondering if you could maybe for a minute elaborate on what you meant by that was a mistake.
So as a broker, there's a key word within broker, and it's called broke. It's broke and little r, right? And so as a broker, you either make your money from the agents or you make your money from your own production, and the agents kind of pay the bills to keep the brokerage open. And that's how most work. That's how most RE/MAX franchises work. Every brand's got a different model and a different look, but at the end of the day, it's about the company dollar, which is what the net is to the company from the agent's production. And for me, I was a big producer in Austin, and so I had a great reputation, but I felt it was going to hamper me with my recruiting if I was competing against them. So it's I had to look at, I made a physical, conscious decision to not compete against them. And the reason I say that was a big mistake is because I had built a good sized business. I mean, 20 million a year as a single agent with a buyer's agent is in 2004, that we were doing 65, 70 transactions a year. And that's a decent sized business. And so I completely shut that down. And what happened was, over the next 3 or 4 years, while life was happening, I lost touch with all those past clients. Excuse me, I lost touch with all the repeat business. And so when I came back in, I didn't have my past clients, my repeat business, all that stuff. I had to completely start over. And so that's where the mistake came in. Let me grab some water. I'm going to grab some water real quick.
Go for it. Guys, that was an amazing story. I'd never heard that. So I never heard Mark's story. So that was super inspiring and interesting to me. Everybody has their own story of how they managed through the crash and different things that happened. Of course, all you guys have heard my story. But Let's get into a couple of Q&A here. We got several questions. Looks like your internet's froze up for a second. I'll give that. I'll let that. There you go. You back?
Yep, I'm back.
All right, let's see here. We'll just hit on boom, boom, boom. Blake Smith asked, do you do any cold calls, and if so, do you use cold data?
We've used cold for several years. I don't make the calls anymore. My listing specialist also prospects, and she's phenomenal, and so she's doing the calling for us. But Cole is our source for the neighborhood numbers, for cell phone numbers and email addresses that we can build custom audience for with Facebook. So, excuse me, it's Cole's been a huge part of our business for sure.
Cool. Let's see. Vic asked, do you circle prospect as well?
So that's, yes, absolutely. And that's, we don't do it as much as we did. We need to get back to it. But, you know, it's the circle prospecting is, you're looking for the needle in the haystack, but when you find the needle, you have no competition. And that's the beautiful thing about what Ricky teaches is, yeah, you're going to make a lot of calls and you're going to get a lot of no's. But if you figure out how much your yeses are worth, then it makes going for that yes that much better. So we know from a financial standpoint how much a listing is worth to us, how much an appointment's worth, how much a contact is worth. So when somebody tells me no, fuck you, don't call me again, I'm like, thanks, I just made $138, right? Because every one of my calls gets me that much closer to a yes. And it takes a certain number of calls to get an appointment. It takes a certain number of appointments to get a listing. But the beautiful thing in the market we're in is when you get a listing, it's going to sell unless it's overpriced or, you know, completely trashed. So there's such a pent up buyer demand right now. So listings are gold. And we're able to convert those into dollars pretty easily. So yeah, circle prospecting was a big part of it. I need to get back to it on a consistent basis. What I've done the last couple of years is we use mass voicemail to impact and reach those homeowners, and with a compelling message of hey, if you've given any thought to selling your home in the next 30 to 60 days, would love to talk to you. We're sales price to list price ratio is this, and our days on market is this, and we're beating the market average by X%, and I'd love to hear from you. If you're not considering selling, or your home is currently on the market, please disregard this message. And so we've moved to voicemail, and as long as we're consistent dropping the voicemail, it's been very successful. But it does not replace circle prospecting, because a certain percentage of people never get the message, right? A certain percentage of people answer the phone and it hangs up on them. So we're not reaching as deep as we could, and we definitely need to get back to that. But we have built now such a machine that I won't say I don't have to circle prospect, but we're doing what we're doing without circle prospecting. If I added it back in, I know I would do probably 20% more. But it's just, I call it lift and haul. It's finding another person to call and doing all that, because Tanya, my listing specialist, she's now 32 of 34 on listing appointments since she started 5 months ago. And she's killing it. So we focus on expireds. We do a little bit of FSBOs, but our main focus is expireds and hitting them at 8 o'clock the morning they expire, and then nurturing and following up with them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That kind of brings us to the next question here. Does your team call expires? And of course it does.
Yeah. I've reinvented myself 3 times over with expireds, and there is no better listing lead opportunity out there, in my opinion. I think that come down the road, fast forward probably a year to 2 years, the instant offers program that Zillow is testing in Orlando and Vegas right now. That will probably replace expireds as the top listing opportunity for an agent, because consumers are buried in their phones now, and and they're not answering their phone as much. They're responding to text, they're responding to video, that type thing. But we've got to figure out another way to get in front of them. But I think that for right now, and obviously for the last 17 years for me, expireds have been massive. I know if anything ever happened again, I know I can pick up the phone personally and prospect and make $250,000 a year like that, just from calling. And then the rest of it is on top of that. And most of that 250 is going to be profit, because I have signs and lock boxes and a cell phone and Red X. So, Vulcan 7, whatever, pick your poison. But the bottom line is, you've got to make the calls. You've got to be first. You've got to be aggressive. You've got to know your scripts and objections. And it's, they're getting calls from 20 agents, but the beautiful thing is they're getting calls from the 20 agents that actually work, right? So, and 18 of those other agents suck at scripts and dialogues, because they're just learning. They're just coming on. I can kill them. So it's just a, you have to be a bit of a ninja warrior to master this. But if you choose this as one of the pillars in your business, expireds and FSBOs, or circle prospecting, anything you're doing when you're picking up the phone, you've just eliminated 98% of your competition, because they're not going to pick up the phone. Yeah. If they try it, they're going to hate it and they're going to quit, because it's rejection. I can be rejected all day, and it's nowhere near what's worst thing that's happened in my life. So, bring it on.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the agents, not a lot, a couple of the agents in my office since I started coaching were really worried about me telling coaching local agents, giving away all my secrets to the local agents. And, they were really mad at me. But I told them I absolutely was not worried about it, because number one, I have a unique personality. Everybody does. Right. Everybody has their own personality, and will connect with certain people. I did the talk in Kansas City for Remax a couple of days ago at the Tech and Touch, and one of the guys was asking me about how Keller Williams is teaching the bold, classes. And
you mean the Mike Perry script ripoff?
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're teaching them that, and he said, what about all the agents that are calling? That all of them are calling the same people. And I said, but they haven't talked to you yet. You're going to connect with them in a certain way. You don't have enough, it doesn't sound like you're confident enough in who you are that you have something to offer. So it all plays a big part, but you definitely can't worry about saturation of people calling the same people. Everybody's going to connect with somebody.
Well, and I think, unfortunately, I'm sure we've got some KW agents on, and it's an amazing company, but I think they've done a disservice with these bold classes, because when you've got that many Keller Williams agents calling the same people at the same time, it's an advantage to me in Austin, in Keller Williams headquarters, hometown. It's an advantage to me to not be with them, because they're getting a bad name in the marketplace for that. And it's unfortunate. I get what they're doing. It's aggressive, but at the same time, you and I would slay them on the phone. So
absolutely. This is a really good question. Tiffany Strunk says, do you think it is critical to focus on one particular niche, or do whatever you can in any part of real estate?
Man, I teach with my coaching clients and in our own business. We want to pick three pillars that we, the three-legged bar stool. And, the more legs you can add to the bar stool, the more sturdy the bar stool is going to be. But you need at least three legs. Whether that's expireds and FISBOs and internet leads, or expireds, sphere of influence and past clients is a leg. Referral business, agent to agent referral business. You can make $100,000 a year just in referrals, back and forth with agents across the country. If you network, if you prospect agents across the country, if you're in a decent market for inbound moves, or people are selling and moving to other markets, you do the research and look at the data, you can see where they're coming from, and you go target the agents in those markets. But for me, it's 3 or 4 really solid pillars. You've got to start out with one. I wouldn't try to start out with 5. So many agents are like, oh, I got to do Facebook leads, and I got to do internet Google leads, and I've got to do Zillow, and I've got to do expireds, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that. And at the end of the day, they don't do. They don't DO, right? They're scattered all over the place, and they're not doing anything to actually generate opportunity. So, I want to see how many contacts a day are you making, and a contact is physically speaking with someone on the phone or in person about real estate. How many contacts a day? How many appointments are you setting a day? And how many listings are you taking? I can predict your business. 10 contacts a day, guarantee you're going to make $200,000 a year. 20 contacts a day, you're going to make 300 to 350. If you can get to 25 contacts a day, you're going to approach 500,000 a year, because when you're making that many contacts, and you're going to get better and better and better, your close rate's going to go higher. What I see a lot of agents doing, Tiffany, is they focus on contacts and they forget why they're making the calls. You're making the call to set an appointment. Okay? If you don't set an appointment, all that's basically worthless unless you're doing circle prospecting and you're building a nurture list or a pipeline. And I know it's part of what Ricky teaches, is building that seller pipeline of people that are going to do something in the future. But if you're calling expireds and FISBOs who are motivated sellers, you need to be focused on the appointments. That's what's going to get you the dollars. Yeah.
Denise, I see a really good question there, but I want to get to Vic's real quick. Vic says, why would you suggest I learn more about the business side of things? I was going to go to college for business, but decided to do real estate full time out of high school. My goal is to open up my own brokerage by 21.
Vic, I love your enthusiasm. I want you to take a pen, and I want you to write out in front of yourself, broker. And I want you to capital B, capital R, capital O, capital K, capital E, little r. And what do you have left?
Broker.
Broke. You're a broker. Okay. Get that broker thing out of your mind, because it's not the broker. If you look at the teams now and the team leaders that are basically brokerages within a brokerage, the teams are where the profit's being. There you go. Perfect. So, focus on that. Do you want to be broke? Go be a broker. I can promise you, unless you found another model that's going to magically make you a ton of money, you're depending on other agents to create income for you. And when you depend on average people to do extraordinary things, you're not going to get good results. And so you have to look at the numbers. It takes, unless you're in a Remax type environment where they're basically paying rent, right? Even then, you've got to have a certain number of agents just to pay your rent and your overhead. But I would strongly, I think there's going to be a huge consolidation in the brokerage world, probably over the next 5 years. I think that there are a few companies we need to be worried about. Zillow is not one of them, but I think that people need to be taking notice of Redfin, who just raised $100 million and who is discounting across the country to get the listings and giving buyer rebates. I think Open Door there's a segment of the market. They've raised just in between Open Door, Redfin, there's a couple of other ones. $750 million has been raised in venture capital this year to chase these models. And they're very disruptive to our industry. And everybody's worried about Zillow, and Zillow has no desire to be a brokerage. I can tell you, I'm extremely close. I'm actually looking at EXP right now, and I'm not one to look at brokerage models, but I like that it's agent owned. It's been presented to me a couple of times. I'm not a fan of MLMs, multi-level marketing. I'm not a fan of pyramids. I'm not a fan of all that. But I think there's going to be a consolidation, and I think some things are going to change. If I was Gary Keller right now, I'd be a little nervous. So, you know, it's a that's
What about
my.
Dave Leniger?
Oh yeah, well Dave's 77. You know, I mean he's had his run. So.
Or I guess are you saying that Keller Williams is more vulnerable than Remax?
Well, I think it's more that the leader, right? So Gary's built an amazing company. But if you look at the revenue sources for Keller Williams, they're making money on the classes. They're making money on the training, right? They're not making a whole lot of money on the agents. And so they've got 150,000 or 60,000 agents, but they've got 150,000 average agents, okay? Mm-hmm. And he was brilliant in that he set the cap at 2 million in production, because that's what the average agent does. So he's always going to make his 30%, but everything that's going on, and I don't want to pick on Keller Williams. I don't think it's unique to Keller Williams. I think it's that there's going to be disruption, and you know, there's machine learning, artificial intelligence. Yesterday in Saudi Arabia, a robot was given citizenship. So we are coming into some interesting times, and the robot was interviewed by a news person and had some pretty damn good answers to the questions. So, you know, if you're paying attention, there's things happening around the world that technology is going to become even more disruptive in our business. But I don't think it'll never replace the human connection, right? It'll never replace you and I meeting with a client, negotiating a contract with another agent, all of that. Will it get easier to use in a platform environment? Absolutely, but you're never going to replace that human. So, you know, that's. I think we as agents have got jobs for a long, long time, but our world is going to continue to change. You know, 10 years ago, the iPhone 10 is coming out. The iPhone just came into existence 10 years ago. Now the average iPhone user unlocks their phone over 80 times a day. We live in a refresh economy, right? We refresh, and what's the latest? And it's crazy, and it's creating stress for buyers, and it's creating stress for sellers. So,
yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, man. I've got about 9 more minutes before my next
cool.
deal.
Yeah, sure, man. Denise says, do you need to go long before your 9 minutes?
No. I got 9 minutes.
Okay,
I like this question.
What's your response to an expired who says they decided not to sell?
You know, Denise, I can appreciate that. So you had your home on the market for 6 months. You know, had an offer come in last week that was acceptable to you, would you have accepted it? You probably would have, yeah. So what changed between last week and this week that you've now decided that you're not going to sell? Denise, let me ask you a question. If I could sell your home in the next 30 to 45 days, would that cause a problem for you? Because it's not about, they've decided not to sell because of the process. It's a pain in the ass to have your house on the market. It's a pain in the ass to make your beds every day and, you know, take the dogs to pet sitting, and then the agent doesn't show up, or they cancel at the last minute or whatever. So that's why some of these other instant offers and Open Door and some of these other things are getting traction because the consumer is willing to sacrifice margin in order for convenience. You know, if I don't have to put my house on the market and go through all that crap and not know that it's actually going to sell, I'm probably willing to take a 10 to 20% or 10 to 12% hit versus the uncertainty of putting it on the market, people traipsing through my house. I've got Cheerios all over the floor from the kids. You know, it's a pain to sell. So there's a small, probably 5% of the market that is in that position. The masses are still going to be traditional sellers. And the great news is 89% of sellers list with an agent. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's and that number has gone up, by the way, over the last 10 years. It used to only be about 68%. And so we're even more valuable now. But when you say we decided not to sell, that's simply that's just simply them being tired of the process. So if you can show them, look, I specialize in homes just like yours that fail to sell, okay? I'm surprised your home didn't sell, to be honest. Something must have happened. Either it was horrible pictures or the agent wasn't getting you feedback or something happened that to sell. My job is to find that out and then fix it and get that home sold for you. You guys are going, where are you moving to when it does sell? Well, we're going to Denver. Okay, great. When did you want to be in Denver? Well, we wanted to be there 30 days ago. Okay, awesome. So if I were able to sell your home and get you to Denver in the next 30 days, would that cause a problem for you?
Right. You reverse engineer why they decided not to sell and then figure out what their motives are for selling in the first place.
Redirect them right back into motivation.
You smooth it right back into the sale.
Yeah.
I like it, man. Let's see. Here we go. Patty says, I just came on. What do you suggest for a new agent to focus on? I don't have a lot of money to spend right now.
So, Patty, you are going to want to, once Ricky puts this up, you're going to want to go back and watch the first 27 minutes of the thing about how 3 times over I built a business with no money. It's get a cell phone and get Red X or Vulcan 7 or whatever. Get the expired, access to the expireds, learn your scripts, learn your dialogues, print off the 40 objection handlers from Mike Ferry and memorize them, commit them to memory. There are no better scripts out there than the Mike Ferry scripts. They've been around for 40 years. They still work. They're fantastic. And that's the reason Keller Williams copied them. So, you know, the bold script, if you read it, is the exact same freaking script. They changed a few words. But the reason they did, you copy what works, right? So there's no secrets in this business. There's no magic pill. There's nothing you can buy that's going to create or make an amazing agent out of yourself in 30 days. You simply need to prospect, do what's cheap, and then use the money that you make from those activities and reinvest it back into your business in things that work. So get on the phone, set the appointments, get the listings. The listings will sell. Every listing that you take is worth 1.5 transactions. You should be able to generate 1.5 transactions from every listing you take because you're going to get buyer leads from the listing. You're going to get sign calls. You're going to get other sellers in the neighborhood. You're going to do open houses and be able to create. You don't do an open house to find buyers. You do an open house to find sellers, right? So if you door knock ahead of time of the open house, you do a VIP only hour before it's open to the public, you invite the neighbors. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can do. Joshua Smith has a great mega open house strategy. You know, Ricky's talked about them. It's you have to do, and then once you start making some money, you start reinvesting that back into your business, and you can build from there. But you have to do the things that other people don't want to do so that you don't have to, and they still do.
Well said.
How do you do half a transaction? so if it's an average. So if I list 50 homes, I can guarantee you I'm going to do 75 transactions, because some of those listings are going to generate additional opportunities from a sign call, from another listing, a seller in the neighborhood that sees that my listing sold like that. Hey, we want to list with that guy. I didn't have to call them to get that listing. They're calling me. A buyer calls you off the sign. A buyer calls you off of an internet site because they saw the house. So that's how you do half a transaction. It's a ratio.
It's an average. So Ronnie asked, do you ever speak in Austin?
No, I don't like to train my competition, but again, it's not so much it's not even that anymore, because I have the same belief that Ricky does. There's no secrets. There's no magic pills. They're not going to do it. I can tell you, I can give you everything we've done over the last 17 years, and the odds of one of you actually doing it are still fairly low. So it's just the reality, it's human nature. So pick the high points, pick one or two things and do them extremely well, and then build from there. But
it's like I always say, how realtors build their business is like a fingerprint. I mean, there's not two realtors that did it exactly the same. Even if I were in the same market and I called the same exact sellers as you with the same exact script at the same time, which can't happen because you can't talk at the same time.
Right.
We would still get different results. If I sent the same postcards as you sent to the same people, if I did the same emails, did everything the same, you would still end up with two incredibly different results. And it just goes to show you that it is literally like a fingerprint. Yep. Everybody's business, the way that they succeed and the level of their success, it's that no two realtors can create identical businesses. It's just impossible. So
absolutely.
Man, we so appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I don't know how to do it again. Yeah. I'm sorry I have to cut it short. I've got to go back down to the deal, but yeah, I mean, let's do it again. And if people have questions or want to reach out on Facebook or Messenger or whatever, they're welcome to. And Ricky, you're doing an amazing job, and it's good to see what you've created in the community that you've created, and you've found one of those pillars and you're charging down that path, and that's awesome. And I applaud you for that. Keep it up. You've built an amazing business in your market, and you're building a community, and it's the same exact thing I'm doing with other businesses. But we're humans, and humans need that human connection, and they may never get to meet you in person, but doing the video, doing the live, all that stuff, that's where it's at. So kudos, appreciate you having me on. And if there's anything I can do for you or any of the folks that are on or that watch us later, I'm open. So
Mark is a part of the Zero to Diamond Facebook group, so you guys can find him there, reach out, make friends, message him, any questions you might have for him. So we're gonna go, guys. We appreciate everybody's time. Go for the questions, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.